2.
Kelowna is a city on Okanagan Lake in the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia's southern interior. Kelowna is the province's third largest metropolitan area after Vancouver and Victoria. Kelowna's estimated population in 2024 is more than 250,000 in the metropolitan area and more than 160,000 in the city proper. In 1811, David Stewart traveled to the Okanagan Valley, the first European to do so. It was not until 1859 that Father Pandossi, a French Roman Catholic missionary, became the first European to settle. Although the population remained small for the rest of the 19th century, fruit growing expanded during the 1870s. By the 1890s, commercial agriculture was firmly established. In 1893, the Canadian Pacific Railway, the CPR, constructed the steamer SS Aberdeen on the lake. It served as the first significant transportation link between Kelowna and Penticton and increased the speed of Kelowna's growth. Kelowna was incorporated in 1905 with a population of 600. The town relied entirely on transportation over Okanagan Lake until 1925. In September 1925, the CPR was extended to Kelowna, ending the town's reliance on Okanagan Lake for transportation and trade. Kelowna's climate is classified as humid continental or inland oceanic. The official climate station is at the Kelowna International Airport, a higher elevation than the city core. Kelowna has the second mildest winter of any non-coastal city in Canada after Penticton. Summer months in Kelowna are warm with hot and sunny spells. Temperatures typically reach the high 30 degrees Celsius or above. June is the wettest month, followed by a sharp drying trend through the rest of the summer. The city averages about 380 millimeters or 15 inches of precipitation per year. About 1/5 is snow, mostly in December and January. Central Kelowna is a tourist district alongside Okanagan Lake. Parks and beaches, boardwalks and walking trails, and the Kelowna Marina and Yacht Club. As the largest city in the tourist-oriented Okanagan Valley, service industries employ the most people. As of 2016, tourism in the area had become $1 billion a year industry. In summer, golf, boating, hiking, and cycling. In winter, skiing and snowboarding are favorite activities at Big White and Silver Star. Prospera Place is home to the Kelowna Rockets, a Canadian major junior ice hockey team. The Rockets have been a force in the Western Hockey League, the WHL. At this time, 17 banners hang from the rafters, including the 2004 Memorial Cup, 4 WHL championships, and 7 WHL British Columbia Division titles. The region is renowned for its wine industry and is home to the University of British Columbia's Okanagan campus, a teaching hospital, and the second largest trade school in the province. Kelowna International Airport is among the largest economic drivers in the southern interior. The first flight at Kelowna took place at the Regatta in August 1914. An American flyer from Oakland, California, Weldon B. Cook, had obtained pilot license number 95 from the Aero Club of America in 1912. Cook owned a Curtiss-type pusher powered by a 6-cylinder Roberts motor. Cook's hydro airplane was a single-float biplane. It arrived in several crates aboard the Canadian Pacific Lake steamer Sicamous. After assembly, it flew only once, as Cook experienced engine trouble. This would be the last exhibition flight in BC until the end of the First World War. The second aircraft at Kelowna was scheduled as an exhibition flight at the Regatta of 1919. Lieutenant G.K. Trim flew a Curtiss JN-4 Canuck of the Vancouver branch of the Aerial League of Canada to the city, which he then flew from the polo field east of Gyro Park. After his exhibition, Trim was successful in attracting passengers. He remained in the city for some time. During the 1920s, Kelowna was visited occasionally by aircraft from the Jericho Beach Air Station, initially by a Curtiss HS-2L on detached duty based in Kamloops and Sicamous. Later, by Vickers Vedettes and Fairchild FC-2Ws on photographic and forestry assignments. The city began to appreciate a community airfield and attempted to buy land from Axel Otten, a Rutland fruit grower. Negotiations were unsuccessful, but local flyers persuaded the fruit grower to allow the use of some of his land. It was to his field in September 1928 that American entrepreneur Clyde Wan brought his company's new Alexander Eagle Rock A2. It had been registered a few days earlier in Vancouver. The 3-seater was flown by John M. Patterson of Denver, Colorado. The Eagle Rock carried passengers for several days before heading to the Yukon, where Wan's airline, the Yukon Airways and Exploration Company, would later operate it. The aircraft left Kelowna for Kamloops, arriving at Williams Lake September 13th. Wan maximized the number of passengers Patterson took up from the Rutland field. The front cockpit had 2 seats, but when crammed 3 people in if they were small enough. Cliff Renfrew, who would later become a pilot, recalled his first flight in the Eagle Rock. Patterson did a stall turn or hammerhead straight down toward the airfield. Renfrew was terrified, but came back and did it again. In February 1930, the Kelowna Board of Trade approached City Council about the establishment of an airfield and asked that the question be submitted to the ratepayers that $25,000 be allocated to buy land and construct airport buildings. At the end of November 1929, Radium Hot Springs Flying Service acquired a de Havilland DH-60M Gypsy Moth. The owner, John Blakely, decided to base the aircraft at Kelowna's Rutland Field and offer flying lessons. Blakely hired instructor Lowell Dunsmore to fly the Moth. Among his first students was Cliff Renfrew, who had caught the flying bug with Clyde Wan. Blakely later moved to Vernon as the Rutland Field was unlicensed, but he continued to fly from Kelowna as needed. During October 1931, 2 RCAF Vickers Vedette flying boats landed on Okanagan Lake. The aircraft had been flown from Jericho Beach by Squadron Leader Earl McLeod and Flight Lieutenant A.D. Niverville. On July 11, 1935, a Waco ATO straight wing was at Kelowna's Rutland Field. The Waco was flown by Eric DePonsier, who later left for Vernon. In early fall 1935, a Ford Tri-Motor 4ATA of United Air Transport, owned by Grant McConaughey, arrived at the Rutland Field. 6 passengers were on board. The field at Rutland was improved somewhat during the Second World War. It was used occasionally by military aircraft. By 1945, this privately owned turf field was apparently too small to be further developed for future needs. Kelowna Alderman Jack Horn was an advocate for a municipal airport. Largely through his efforts, a site was chosen at Dixon's Ranch, 9 miles north of the city. The 320 acres were eventually negotiated for $20,000. But first, the city needed the ratification of the ratepayers and needed 60% approval, which it surpassed by 6 votes in December 1945. The original field in the district of Ellison was known as Ellison Field. It was 1,500 feet long in 1946. In 1948, it was extended to 3,000 feet by 300 feet and was seeded in grass. In 1947, a small terminal building was constructed at the north end of the field, followed in 1948 by a hangar. The field was licensed in the name of the city in 1948. On August 1st, 1949, the official opening was held in conjunction with an air show. The event was attended by many visiting aircraft, including a Canadian Pacific Airline Douglas DC-3 and a Cessna T-50 Crane. The first aircraft to land reportedly belonged to Kelowna resident Cliff Renfrew, who built the first private hangar at the field. The first commercial operator at Ellison Field in 1946-47 was Philby and Smith Airways of Penticton. Pilot Dan McIver and owner Dave Smith offered flight instruction and charter service in a Piper J5 Cub cruiser. The operation was short-lived. McIver left for greener pastures. Later, Smith was killed in a crash. The second operation at the field was Okanagan Air Services. It offered charter flights and instruction until 1951, when it came to be known as Okanagan Helicopters. The company sold its equipment to the Aero Club of BC, which operated at Ellison Field for about a year, then moved back to its main base at Vancouver. The field's first airport manager was a former RCAF pilot, Ralph Hermanson. He would later form his own company, Caribou Air Charter Limited, in 1952, offering instruction and charters. In 1948, L&M Air Service started a licensed Class II scheduled service from its base at Vernon. L&M used a twin-engine Beech 18 on floats. Initially, it was docked at the foot of Kelowna's Bernard Avenue. This service connected Penticton, Kelowna, Vernon, and eventually Kamloops. This operation later switched to wheels using the Ellison Field. In July 1958, Canadian Pacific Airlines began a daily DC-3 service to the field until August 1st, 1959. A 5,300-foot paved runway was completed in July 1960. On July 1st, Canadian Pacific Airlines reinstated service using Douglas DC-6B aircraft and later Convairs. Pacific Western took over the service in April 1969 using Boeing 737 and Convair aircraft. A new terminal building had been finished in October 1968. A control tower was built and operated from June 1971. The city of Kelowna operates the airport. Over the years, the terminal, runway, and aircraft parking areas have grown to accommodate the demands of air travel. Kelowna International Airport, known as YLW, is about a 10-minute drive, 11.5 kilometers or 7.1 miles northeast of the city on Highway 97. The single runway airport operates scheduled service and handles as many as 36 commercial departures a day, or approximately 248 departures per week. 3 major airlines serve the airport: Air Canada, Alaska Airlines, and WestJet.